This week on the podcast, it's all about the Disney news and Carrie and I's speculations on what it all means. No more Magical Express, no more extra magic hours. And Kermit the Frog, what is he teasing? Come on! We've got all our thoughts coming up. Stay tuned. Hi, I'm Francine and you're listening to the Pixie Dust Fan Podcast, a podcast where our first topic of conversation will always be Disney. I've been a Disney fan for as long as I can remember, and I'm determined to bring more of that Disney magic into my everyday life. So if you need a little extra pixie dust in your day, you've come to the right place. Thanks so much for listening, and let's get started. Welcome, everyone, to another episode of the Pixie Dust Fan Podcast. Hi, Carrie.
Hello.
Hi. It's nice to actually talk to you. I feel like I haven't talked to you in days.
I know. It's true. Usually we talk multiple times a day. And this week we talked a couple days ago, but then we really didn't talk all week long. So we're out of touch.
We're out of touch. And there was so much going on in the Disney community this week that it's kind of shocking.
We didn't talk about it.
We haven't talked about it. We don't even know each other's opinions on this. It's kind of crazy that this, well, actually it probably worked out well for the podcast, but it's funny that we haven't connected. Life just kind of got in the way this week and we didn't catch up. So, yeah, it's fun that we're going to get to talk about it all together this week. But you're doing okay. Everything, It was a good week otherwise?
Yeah. Same old.
Yeah. It's like
nothing too exciting.
Well, what can we do? Where can we go?
Not too far.
Well, there's lots of news going on in the world, but we only focus on our fun, happy little Disney bubble.
Yep.
And it's been crazy news there. Unbelievable. Shocking.
Breaking.
New news. What do they say? Like all the clickbait that you see online. It's been, I think maybe because it's been so slow with the parks not really open and everything, they're really scraping the bottom of the barrel for some of the news stories.
Until this week.
Until this week. Then it was like all of a sudden everything changed. So there's been some really crazy developments, teasers, stuff going on in the community. And there's one, it's a sentence I never thought I would say to you. But I'm talking like it's a friend of ours. But did you see what Kermit posted this week on Facebook?
Kermit the Frog?
Kermit the Frog. Like, I'm saying it like, it's one of our friends. Did you see what so-and-so posted on Facebook?
Like, do you follow Kermit the Frog?
I follow Kermit the Frog.
I'm impressed.
I know, right? I do. I follow him. So, did you see? He was posting a teaser about something to come. But he didn't say what it was. And now, of course, in the Muppet, and I can't believe I'm telling you Muppet news, but in the Muppet community, to which you are a member,
there's some speculation, which is the theme of today's podcast. Yes.
So this podcast, we figured we're going to just share all of our speculations about what all this news and fun stuff means.
Right. So I did look at the post after you had said it, and I think some of the speculations would be fantastic.
Yes.
But I have a feeling it's probably that Muppets now got renewed on Disney Plus for a second season.
I think it could be right, but some of the other stuff was fun that they were speculating, like Fraggle Rock.
The best thing ever would be that they put the complete Muppet Show on Disney Plus.
That would be
But
fun.
I don't think that'll happen. That would be the best.
Yeah.
That would make every Muppet fan's dream come true. I saw people say the original Muppet Babies on Disney Plus. That would be amazing.
You'd be very happy with that.
Yeah. And but I don't know that any of, what will happen.
He didn't say when
So I'm going to be on pins and needles. I'm going to be sitting on the side of my seat just waiting.
He didn't say when he would tell us what it was. He just said, stay tuned. So
now I did see something on a Muppet fan page where there was a graphic of the Marvel series that came out,
WandaVision?
WandaVision that came out yesterday. I did see, not on the official Muppet site, because I looked to see if I could find it, but a picture of Kurt as Piggy as Wanda and Kermit as Vision. And as soon as I saw that, I quickly was like, is this a real thing? So I, like a spoof or just a funny thing they do, because they often do stuff like that. And I couldn't find it on an official Muppet site, but that was kind of fun. I saw that, but I didn't see Kermit's news. I hadn't been on social media a lot when I was busy at work. So
yeah, when you're busy
and not that I'm sitting on Facebook at work, but when I'm busy at work and I'm at my desk all day, I find at nighttime I just usually steer clear of my computer sometimes.
Right.
I just do other things.
And it's good for you to take sort of a little mental break from social media every once in a while, right?
Yeah.
I don't because obviously I'm posting all day, but I
got to close my door.
Oh, we're having a cat break-in?
Yeah, I'll be right back.
Okay.
Prince Charming has joined the podcast.
Excellent. Welcome to the podcast, Prince Charming.
Sorry.
That's okay. I can edit, unless it's funny. Okay, so we talked about the Muppets.
Yep. We'll see.
We'll see what happens.
We'll bring it up when we know what happens.
So, are we going to start the real big Disney news with Walt Disney World or Disneyland?
Whatever you like. It's you can choose.
I can choose?
Yeah.
I think we should start with Disneyland.
Sounds good to me.
Annual passes.
Yeah, that was big news.
That was huge news. I was watching some vloggers who were like, she equated it, and now I can't remember what they're called again. What did you say their names were?
Oh, Best Life and Beyond.
Best Life and Beyond. Her name's Katie. She said it was like she'd just been dumped. That's what it felt like. Where she's had this relationship with Disneyland all these years, and they've just ended the relationship.
That's awesome.
And that's kind of how she equated it. And it's so true, right? So she grew up going to Disneyland and having an annual pass. And she's like, it's part of who I am. I identify as a Disneyland annual pass holder. And yeah.
Well, there'll be something. That's the thing. I think so. There was a lot of breaking news and flashes of this being canceled and whatever, but there will be something else. Like at Disneyland, that's wouldn't we assume that annual pass holders are their bread and butter?
Exactly, because when you go to Disneyland, and this is something you always talk about too, is that at Disneyland it's all locals. It's a lot more locals than it is tourists.
And that's why it's got the feel that it has, and why it's different than the Florida parks and.
Right. So the official statement from Ken Potrock, who is the president of Disneyland Resort, said, "We want to thank our annual pass holders for their understanding during this closure period. Due to the continued uncertainty of the pandemic and limitations around the reopening of our California theme parks, we will be issuing appropriate refunds for eligible Disneyland Resort annual passports and sunsetting the current program. We are currently developing new membership offerings that will utilize consumer insights to deliver choice, flexibility, and value for our biggest fans."
Interesting.
So,
well, yeah. And before things close, I don't know the timing, but they did have I guess the last time they updated the pricing, the regular annual pricing changes for annual passes. They made the different passes, they had a lot more block out times, because they would have Southern California tickets, I think, that were blocked out certain times, but then they did some new tiers where, depending on, I can't remember the names of them, but depending on the different tiers, you had different access, unless you had the top access that gave you round the clock. So they had sort of changed it a little bit.
I think that's one of the challenges sometimes with some of the big sites and, fan sites, websites, whatever, is they, just like mine does, same thing, I get credit for people clicking on my website and reading. And then if they happen to click and shop through any of the ads, it's great. But what happens is people are so focused on getting clicks to their website that they print headlines that really are quite misleading, right? And the clickbait, which is annual pass holders, annual pass canceled. Well, really, when you read the statement, he's saying we are currently developing new membership offerings. that will utilize consumer insights to deliver choice, flexibility, and value for our biggest fans. So, yes, the current one is over, but there's a new one coming.
Yep.
And I think that's missing from the headline.
For sure. And I'm sure the what's going on in the world and being closed for so long allows them to do it. But this might be something that they've been planning for a while, or trying to figure out how to transition into something different, right?
Yeah.
Like getting into the parks at Disneyland is different than getting into the parks at Walt Disney World, right? Like at Walt Disney World, we have the fingerprints and the magic bands. And at Walt Disney World, they take your photo. There's no fingerprints. Their fast passes until recently were paper fast passes until they went onto the app, but they still don't have advanced fast pass planning and all of that stuff. So maybe, they're trying to make things, access, pre-planning, how you enter the park. Maybe that's part of it. And the annual pass holder thing with, like, so many people are annual pass holders. Like, could they even manage to have just open gates when things open again, right? They're going to have to do what Walt Disney World has done with park planning and park reservations and stuff like that. So
maybe they're just trying to figure out how they're going to, and maybe this is a good sign of things to come, right? So maybe they are getting ready to open up and they're trying to figure out how to manage the crowds, manage the people, and they will have more, because they're talking about flexibility and using consumer insights. So I am sure there are a lot of people in California that want annual passes, that want, whatever, but they can't pay for a whole year, or they're looking to go once a week on a Monday instead of the flexibility to go every day. And maybe that's what they're starting to do is figure out how to disperse that crowd and have different, maybe they'll have monthly plans. Maybe they'll have a monthly pass instead of an annual pass, or things like that. So it gives you the flexibility of choice, right?
For sure. And I think, too, with keeping the annual passes active, when it does open, and if it's at an extreme, like low capacity, there's going to be a lot of angry annual pass holders because they're going to have this annual pass that was sitting there that they've been given free months or whatever, and they might not be able to go
get back in.
Like, it's not like you'll be able to, you won't be able to, well, maybe you probably won't be able to go in every single day like you wanted to, or every single weekend. So, they might not be able to deliver anyway. So maybe it makes the most sense with this opportunity
to change it up.
Because if you really want to go in, you'll plan and buy your 1-day ticket, or you'll plan a long weekend and buy a 3-day ticket, or plan your trip differently and kind of get your dose of Disneyland. I don't know about the people that live very, very close, but the people that are in California that may be a couple-hour drive away or a day's drive away, they might pre-plan and plan ahead and plan a different type of trip than maybe what they would have done before.
Well, and giving the extra, like the free months, the free time and all that kind of stuff on the pass, eventually, like, they can't open and then say, you can't use the time we gave you. So they really need to... That's
probably what would happen.
It's right. So it's probably like they need to do a clean slate. It's almost like I owe nobody nothing. And maybe also quantify how much they've lost. So this could be part of their, at the year-end review cap, how much money has been lost as part of this shutdown with the government keeping them shut. And maybe that's, part of their business strategy is to be able to quantify that as well, and how much they've had to issue in refunds. And it'll be very interesting to see, but I'm excited because it's something new. So there's going to be a new program, which is not necessarily what was announced on all the clickbait sites.
Do you think I had about 20 days left? Do you think I'll get a refund?
I think, you know what? I think Ken Potrock is sitting there going, Carrie, she is like one of our biggest fans, and I think we need to take care of her.
I think for me with the Disneyland, like, this would have been my last annual pass anyways, because the prices went up so much. I could probably go 3 times and buy a 5-day ticket 3 times a year, and I would be breaking even.
Yeah. It's different than Walt Disney World,
instead of paying for it all up front, right? Like putting your eggs in that basket at the beginning of the year and not knowing if you're going to go once, twice, or 5 times.
It was different. So my Walt Disney World one, I got my refund for my unused time on my Walt Disney World annual pass. But I never bought a Disneyland annual pass because it never seemed to work out for me for how many times I would go. But Walt Disney World, really, if you did 2 trips, it was worth it.
Mm-hmm. I used to buy the Premier Pass because back in the very early years, it was very cheap. Yeah. And then over the years, it jumped and jumped. And when it got to like 18, when it got to $18.99, I believe that was when I was like,
this might be it.
I think I bought it one more time. Maybe when it was $16.99 or whatever. And now it's over like $2,200. It was because it doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah, it's a lot of money.
And then when you break it out, you're like, you could do 2. Yeah, it's just you have to decide.
You have to do the math to see whether or not the annual passes are worth it.
Well, and I find for me, because we get the DVC discount, right? So we get merchandise discounts already. So that's not even a perk anymore.
Yeah. It used to be a big perk because you were like, ooh, I get my discounts, whatever. Mm-hmm. But yeah, if you're a DVC member, you're getting some discounts anyway. So it'll be interesting to see. I'm excited that there's news coming out of Disneyland. Right? Like just the fact that there's news means stuff's working on. Like they're working on stuff. So it's good. And then over at Walt Disney World, oh yeah, they're working on a lot. There's a lot going on over there. Extra magic hours seem to sort of get they didn't really get the airplay that they should have probably got because the Magical Express just topped everything.
Yeah, it stole its thunder.
It stole the thunder. So they kind of bundled that release together a little bit, where they announced the end of Disney's Magical Express as we know it, and the end of Extra Magic Hours as we know it. It was a little crazy. The emotions really, like the Disneyland folks are pretty, like that hurts, that news. I would say that it's probably equal, like emotional wise, right? Like the way that people reacted to the comments on the Disneyland thing and then the comments on the Magical Express and the extra magic hours. Like there's a lot of emotions in the comments. Oh my goodness. Like it was crazy how, so it's nuts. Disney announced sort of on the blog, they were like, for 50 years, we're evolving the experience, blah, blah, blah. And then just in the middle of that, they said vacationers have more options to choose from for their transportation, including rideshare, and more flexibility to go where they want, when they want. And in light of this shift, Disney Resort hotel bookings for stays in 2022 will no longer offer Disney's Magical Express service for airport transportation, starting with arrivals on January 1st, 2022. They will continue to offer the service for 2021. And of course, they're saying, the complimentary transportation options on property will still be included. So, but they did say, so the complimentary transportation options, such as buses, monorails, and Disney Skyliner, will continue to be available within Walt Disney World Resort for Disney Resort Hotel guests, including to and from all 4 theme parks. I don't know. Do you think there's anything in it that they're specifying it's for resort guests?
Maybe.
But 2022, Carrie, seriously, people were losing their minds. It was like the internet blew up in Disney Universe over this Magical Express, which is, quite frankly, 11 months away.
Well, I think that's, of course, it's 11 months away. There's a lot of time to see what the other options are. But the Magical Express, for a lot of people, that's the start of their vacation. Like that's that ride is so exciting to them. Although we should remind them that on the way home, we all call it the Tragical Express. But the Magical Express is, it is magical. It is truly magical to them. And that's the emotion. I think there's more emotion to like it being the start of your vacation. Well, I saw both this, like that, and then people saying, okay, now we're going to have to pay for this. But,
well, but we have to remember too, the Magical Express wasn't around since 1971. It was only 2005 when this started. So it's only been around since then. People got back and forth to Walt Disney World without the Magical Express before 2005 when it started.
Well, and now everybody likes to take ride shares too, like I'm sure. And
Well, I was never a big one for using and maybe this is why I didn't get so emotional about it, but I was never a big Magical Express person. I've used it, and I used it more so in recent years. So I think when they started charging for parking at the resorts was when I started using the Magical Express. So for me, I always rented a car. And really, I only ever used the Magical Express when I was on my own, because usually I would get lost if I was driving by myself. So, if I was on my own, I would take the Magical Express. But then when they started charging for parking, I'm like, okay, I'll take it. And I literally just got my sister on it, I think, for the first time last year.
Well,
She's
and
been
I
on
think
it
that
twice.
The parking, like maybe part of paying for parking that, all rolled out a couple years ago when everybody was up in arms is part of this whole process. Like there could be, it could be because of what's going on in the world, but it could also be part of a plan they've had all along. Like it can't be, is it the best business decision to have like that type of program going, like all the buses and what it takes? I don't know. Yeah. Like maybe this is part of their master plan and, getting everybody eased into paying for parking, for a couple of years, because then that we know with no Magical Express, there's going to be more car rentals, I'm sure, than what there was before.
I think it's, it's one of those things. It was a great service and it was contracted out to Mears. So this wasn't Disney operated, right? So it wasn't a Disney owned transportation program. I don't think I'd be surprised if there was a Disney owned one that comes up. Maybe they develop one that's Disney owned, or they charge for it, or with this new train that's coming. So that train, there's a train that's coming from the airport to Disney Springs. How long did it say that ride was? It was supposed to be supposed to be really super duper fast. But then people were up in arms about that. So if you take the train to Disney Springs, how do you get your luggage from Disney Springs? Are you supposed to get on the resort buses?
You'd think that Disney would make sure that was taken care of.
Well, places like Disney plans attractions 5 years in advance. I can't imagine they pull the plug on Magical Express and go, find your own way. See you later. We haven't thought about that yet.
Well, and even with Mears, right? Like I think forever they've been the transportation option, alternate transportation option in Florida and Central Florida. So, why wouldn't they just provide that exact, scrape off all those Mickey Mouse icons off the side of them, and why wouldn't they do the exact same service with the same types of drops? Yeah. And I could see so many people come in, you wouldn't even necessarily need to pre-plan. You could just show up and tap and pay for your family to get on, or you prepay to save $1 a person or something like that. Yeah. Why, as long as they get everything in place with the permissions to be able to deliver where they need to, or maybe they do a depot too, I can't see why they wouldn't just have that seamless from one day to the next, provide that same service. And it sure won't be, maybe you'd have to get dropped off at whoever's on the bus versus, or maybe they could organize it the same, right? Put as many people on the same buses as possible. Maybe it won't be as seamless and quick because of stops and things like that, or maybe it will. Yeah,
well, when you go to Universal, you got to pay for their bus.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so you have to pay for your transfers.
Yeah, so if you want picked up at the airport, you pay.
Same thing.
Yeah, it's the same thing. So I think it was money on the table that Disney was missing. And quite honestly, how much money did it cost them to operate those buses? I can tell you, there was once I arrived by myself and it was a late night flight and the bus was packed. Otherwise, every other time I've been on it, there's been a handful of people. A handful at most. Sometimes I get on that bus and there's me and one other family. That's it. I can't imagine what that would be costing for them to run those buses back and forth, pay the drivers, the insurance, the gas, the spot, the real estate at the airport. I think, it doesn't make sense. I don't think from a business perspective. So, but I do think there's something else in the works. It's Disney. They don't just pull something away without having something else to go with it. And I think they had to announce it this early for people who are going to start planning 2022. So if you're starting to plan, although can you imagine if you worked at Alamo, all the people that worked at the rental car companies, they must have been thrilled about this news.
Yeah, they're like, yippee! money.
Right? Uber and all those rideshare guys, they're like, yes, now we can get back in there. But there's a whole bunch of people that did not take Magical Express, that used private transfers or private cars or Uber and whatever because they didn't want to wait for the bus.
Well, and I think that years ago when Magical Express came about, you paid a small fortune to get your transfer because it really was private transfers or taxi cabs, which a taxi would be pretty expensive, right? Like
I used to take the cars back and forth and it would be like $80 one way. So that's why I ended up renting cars all the time because for, an extra $50, it was the same as 2 cab rides. So
yep. And then with Uber and Lyft and all of those guys being very reasonable,
right?
Like, why? Yeah, and certain people that do rideshare just do rideshare. That's like a lot of things I saw on the comments were people talking about the Magical Express providing a safe transport for families because of the car seats, right? Because there's car seat laws.
Yes.
That you need to have a car seat if you're not in a certain type of vehicle, which again, like that's why I can't see like Mears is like there's got to be bus transportation or van, like whatever transportation allows the car seat, like that deals with this car seat issue that's gotta be there.
And luggage.
Considering and luggage because of families, right?
Yeah,
that's
so
the thing.
If you have family of 4 or 5 pieces of luggage, 2 kids, and 2 car seats, the Magical Express was made for you.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's the thing. You wouldn't need a car seat if you had with that type of transport, right? So people think, I rent a car, I have to pay $10 a day for a car seat, or I have to bring my car seats from home, or they take a van shuttle, and the van shuttles don't provide car seats, so then they think I've got to bring my car seat with me so that I can have a car seat just for those shuttle rides, which is crazy to car seats.
Do you think we'll see? I'm actually kind of hoping we'll see the return of minivans or some kind of like knockoff of it. Meaning, maybe they do say, okay, we're not doing Magical Express anymore. It's all about this new train. So you have to take the train from the airport to Disney Springs, but then from Disney Springs, they have some kind of transport that gets you from Springs to your resort, which may or may not be a premium minivan. That wouldn't that be because one of the great things about the minivan was it came with car seats and it was safe. It was a Disney cast member. It was one of my favorite modes of transportation. Like once they had minivans, I really didn't have a need to rent a car because I would take the Magical Express back and forth and then I could use the minivans when I didn't want to take the bus or the monorail or whatever. But maybe that's like I'm kind of hoping that it means a little more about the minivan maybe returning.
We took the minivan to the airport, right? A bunch of us didn't. Were you with? Was that the trip?
No, I don't. I've never taken it to the airport. I've taken lots of them around property, but I never took it to the airport.
Taking it to the airport, if you have a bunch of people where you're just going to split, like I think I put like $25 into the kitty and I got one-way ride to the airport.
Isn't that
fantastic?
That was a sweet ride. Yeah. And they had like bottles of water and it's Disney music. Snacks. And they're comfortable drives. Yeah.
So I'm sure that hopefully minivans stays alive and that continues to be an option.
I think
for people that want to do it.
There is something coming. I am absolutely sure of it. I think they just needed to announce it this early. I think sometimes they do that too. They announce things really, really early, get the shock and awe over with, and then they can come out with new news. It's almost like the Splash Mountain refurb, right? Like they announced that last year sometime, everybody was up in arms, and now it's been crickets. Like when we don't even know when it's happening. Well,
it's true, I guess, because I was wondering, like, if they announced it a little too early, but because usually they don't all open up the next year for quite a while, but like timing it out so it's kind of over and done with, and everyone's kind of talked it to death and whatever. Because if there's going to be options you book through Disney, it will. Like they would have them in place, you would think, by the time they open 2022.
They need
so it gives them time to get things, you know. And all the hubbub over, and then when they roll out next year, then it won't be so dramatic.
True. But in amongst that hubbub, they just sort of slipped in the fact, Magical Express canceled. Oh, and by the way, we got rid of extra magic hours. Thanks for coming. Like, it was just kind of a like, oh, by the way, they're gone.
There's always been little rumors here and there about them doing that and providing and having it more like what Universal does or like...
Where, yeah.
You know, because Universal is you go in...
Like, you get in early, don't you, if you're...
Yeah, as long as you're on off your resort stay or you have a certain type of
But
ticket.
it's a deluxe resort, right? Not every resort.
No, all
gets
of them.
It.
I think it's all of them.
But they can't. But yeah, they can't do. The problem is
they only have two parks too, right? And they only have a couple resorts. But like, so you hear about that, and then you hear about them saying it's just going to be something you pay for. So we've heard like little buzzings about that too. That it's just going to be extra, or it's going to be. Or that it was going to be something that people off-site could buy or buy. There's been all kinds of things that were things that people love, like fast passes and early mornings and all that stuff. That, you know, finding a way to change it where it's either not offered or it's something you pay for extra fast passes or whatever.
Well, don't you feel like the last couple of years they've really been testing that market to see what will people pay for? Like, will people pay to go have breakfast early in the morning and get into the park, to get into Toy Story Land an hour early before everybody else so they're not waiting an hour and a half to get on Slinky Dog? Will they pay $75 for breakfast in an hour?
And that's
they
what
do.
They've been doing.
They do.
So they got rid of extra magic hours, but they have something. Well, did you explain what's taking its place?
So what's taking its place is that you now get 30 minutes advanced entry at any park every day. So where extra magic hours used to be, say you got an hour early entry at Magic Kingdom only on Tuesday morning, now it's 30 minutes advanced entry for anyone staying at a Disney resort to any park any day. So really, what it is it's letting you get in before the rest of the off-site guests so that you can get to whatever ride or attraction you're going to try to get the lineup for. So like the rope drop of Slinky Dog or Rise of the Resistance, we're not even there yet. So it's Smuggler's Run Flight of Passage, Seven Dwarfs Mine Train. So that kind of rope drop where people want to go and get in that line early, resort guests will now be able to do that. They'll just be that much further ahead.
Or the Starbucks line, whatever.
To get that carrot cake cookie in Hollywood Studios. I might go the half hour early for that.
Well,
I never used extra magic mornings because it was my indication of what park was going to be the busiest.
Yeah, I would use them if there was something brand new that I wanted to go on and I didn't have a fast pass, or before fast passes. Yes. I'd use them. But I find now like there were so many early magic morning breakfast thingies options, where, you know, for Toy Story Land or whatever. And then there didn't seem to be as many early extra magic hours as there was in the past. Like there seemed to be fewer and fewer. So between the two, like
they were kind of phasing them out.
I think they were kind of phasing them out, or even for planning, like you'd have, like, if you were the avoid, like, you know, if you were going to be up so early that you were going to be able to get to the parks at that 1 hour early with ease. That's what I always tell people, like, especially when they have younger kids. Like, if you got those kids that get up at like 6 o'clock in the morning, 5 o'clock in the morning, and you guys are like washed, dressed, fed, and you're twiddling your thumbs, then go to those parks and take advantage of it, right? But generally, you tell people to, like, you might tell them to avoid it. So you think there's no, like, you're avoiding almost every morning, it seems, because there was always something going on. Because before it was just avoiding the magic hours, and then you're avoiding the early breakfast events and whatever. So, like, you were avoiding everything, like.
Yeah. It was getting to be too much. Like, I remember way, way, way back in the day when there were like 5 resorts. Extra magic was everything. So it was a huge perk because there weren't that many people staying on property. Yeah. But now with all the resorts and all the rooms on property, extra magic hours meant anybody who hadn't bought a hopper pass was going to that park so they could maximize their day, which meant it was the busiest. And yeah, definitely the part to avoid. So I'm kind of okay with that one. I think it's just, I think everybody online is, they're going on, well, what's the value in staying on Disney property if I don't get this and I don't get that and blah, blah, blah. Staying on Disney property, that's your value. Your value is you're right next to the parks that are the most magical places on earth. You're getting Disney service in your resort. The cast members, the fabulous people that work for Disney are like no other. Your service is like no other. You get all the transportation on site. Like, there's so many great reasons to stay at a Disney resort. The food, the shopping.
The bubble.
The bubble. You're in the bubble. Like, I couldn't believe all the people online complaining. Mm-hmm. Negative Nellies.
I think the half hour before across the board is way more, is so much flexibility, because it's really, really the days of getting into a park for that extra hour and like running around and getting all kinds of stuff done or whatever, long gone, right? Yep. So it's that half an hour to get, because you have your fast passes that you have pre-planned in an ideal world back when it's all back to normal, right? Like, you had your fast passes, that little half hour is going to let you get on that favorite ride again because you got a fast pass for later, or because you snoozed and losed and you couldn't get the fast pass, that you get to go to that line. Like, yes. I don't know what more you really need in today's, Walt Disney World theme park going for early in the morning.
And it also gives you like a little extra edge over, so Walt Disney World operates different than Disneyland. The annual pass holders, no offense, are not necessarily the bread and butter of Walt Disney World. Mm-hmm. So for all the locals who are going there, at rope drop to get on Smuggler's Run or Slinky Dog or whatever, are not, like, every day there will be an advantage to the resort guests, which, I think is helpful in terms of dispersing the crowds. Yep. So I'm I'm okay with this one. I'm really okay with it. And I think, yes, there are a lot more pay-to-play things coming. There absolutely are. I think Disney's kind of been missing the boat for a while, not doing them. So you can go, you spend the price of your ticket, you get into the parks. It's a magical experience. If you are one of those people who has disposable income and you want to plus your experience, they're going to have something for you to spend it on. And I think that's coming.
Yeah, for sure.
But plus her up everywhere. and then you can decide, like, there are things I won't pay for. Like, I'm not paying extra for certain things, but there are things that I will absolutely dig in my purse to find the money for. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so, like if you and I were there and we went to one of those early magic mornings and paid whatever they were, I can't remember off the top of my head. Like, that's our take. Like, we could take a number of minivans for that price. So you and I would choose taking a minivan before we would invest in the early morning. We would put that money in our minivan envelope. Absolutely, because it wasn't as important to me, right? But those minivans, and you were against the minivans. Carrie's like, I'm not paying money for minivan, blah, blah, blah. I got you on one minivan, and then the next time it was like, Carrie, why don't we just take okay, minivan?
No, but it also with the parking again, like these things they do are part of a plan, right? Like the paid parking, I used to like renting the car too. Yeah. And then the paid parking, you think about, well, what am I doing on this trip? Am I really leaving property? Like, where am I going for dinner? How am I going to have to move around the property? And what do I really need it? And then when all of a sudden you have to pay $20 or $25 to park at your resort. Yeah. Then, if you pay that every single day for your 7-day trip, then that's a couple of minivans. So not that we take minivans. We don't have the minivans on speed dial. Like, we're not that type of minivanners. But when they make sense, we there were some
times where you and I were like, oh my gosh, we're exhausted. Mm-hmm. Do you want to go wait for the bus, or should we minivan?
Well, that's the thing. For me, I'm okay with taking all forms of transportation. But when you with travel companions who don't ride buses, as I've heard, and I'm not just pointing my finger at you. I've got some other Disney friends.
You have some other friends that are just
don't
like
take
me.
Buses and don't take the transportation. We rent cars or whatever. The minivans a good option. And if you can do a little bit of both, right? Like, why not take the minivan, like take the buses if they make sense, and take the minivans and the monorails and the boats when you can. But then you've got your minivans as your, nothing like taking a minivan home from Magic Kingdom.
Oh, I know, it's so fantastic. We didn't
really. We talked about the early mornings, but we didn't really talk about. So there's no more late night entries into the late stays. The couple of hours extra.
No, and I would make use of those when I was there by myself. I would stay late because, it's fantastic. And I had nobody get me up early the next morning or anything. But I think those after hours events were, so you know what? Those after hours events I paid for, and I was happy to pay for, especially in the Magic Kingdom. So I paid for a couple of those. Because you could walk on the attractions. It was fantastic. It was kind of like the days of the old pirate and princess parties where there was nobody in the park. But it comes at a cost because they have to pay the cast members. And I think, Disney's looking to save some money right now too. It's a business and the business has to keep going. They need to put money into the business and they're hemorrhaging money like water right now. It's, and I would, if it means that I have to pay for a taxi to get to the resort instead of the Magical Express, but they get to keep the cast members they still have, I'm all for it.
Yeah.
But I feel like they're doing a lot of bad news right now. That
they're
seems
just getting
like
it over with.
Well, and I feel kind of bad for Bob Chapek. And I know lots of people don't like him. I don't know that I'm his biggest fan when I see him speak. He doesn't resonate with me the way Bob Iger does. Bob Iger's one of those people, I would follow him anywhere. I don't know what it is about him, just the way he speaks, the way he delivers news, the way he even speaks to the camera. I feel like he's just talking to me. But Bob Chapek doesn't do that. But I also feel kind of bad for him. Like he's taken over right in the middle of this. Mm-hmm. And everything he's delivering all this news. I kind of feel like my prediction is that when the world gets a little more back to normal and all of the bad news has been delivered, all the cost-cutting, layoffs, blah, 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 we turn the corner, I don't think Bob Chapek will be around. I feel like he's got to be the scapegoat. We'll let him deliver all this bad news, and then I feel like they're going to have to bring in somebody new when the tides start to turn that offers hope and promise that's different from the guy that laid everyone off. Who knows? It'll be a good run for him, but that's my prediction. And I wonder how much of it could be that Josh Tomorrow's getting lined. I love that man. I think I've said that before on this podcast too. But
yes, you have.
I have. He's just such a cutie patootie.
He was at Epcot. Shaking hands. Shaking hands, but not kissing babies. Shaking hands, and not kissing babies. Hands.
He was elbow bumping or whatever, right? He's just, I want to get there and see him. So I think we've shared all of the news, except the last very important piece of news that was just shocking to me. Donald Duck.
Oh. I thought we went through the list.
We did not go through the list. We did not touch on what is happening with Donald Duck. So it's in a slow news day but this story has been going on for a while now.
When the news was slow and then all the other stuff happened.
But it's still continuing. So just the other day, there was a post about this, that they've removed the hat. So for those... So it's the ride, the Grand Fiesta Tour in Epcot in the Mexico Pavilion.
Yes.
There's a scene with the three caballeros singing and dancing. They're singing the Three Caballeros song.
The Three Caballeros.
We're always together.
The Three Caballeros that are always together.
They're not together right now.
Yes. So Donald was not working, and then Donald was kind of slunched over, but still singing and shaking his maracas. and then Donald disappeared, and instead there was a plant with the Donald sombrero on it, with Donald sombrero. And now there's no Donald, no sombrero. There's just the two caballeros
and a planter.
And there's a planter there that's painted like Donald, but I don't know if it was there always there.
It was painted with Donald colors.
Yeah, painted with Donald colors, so it's blue and yellow.
So the song is still playing, and the two caballeros are singing, but Donald is singing, but he is not on the stage.
He's not there.
So he sings the line, "We're always together," but he's not there. There's even videos on YouTube of this. So if you haven't seen it, you might want to check it out.
It's not as funny as we
We just think it's hysterical that this is such a big deal, that it's got YouTube videos and blog posts and everything.
It's funny, just like this, like the videos of it happening, right? Like him not working, him being slumped over, him being, you know,
replaced with a hat,
like with an homage with his sombrero. That's the funny part.
It is kind of funny. And I think, you know, and then people are reading into it. Like, does this mean they're cutting costs? They can't fix it fast enough? Like, who knows? Maybe the part they need for the audio animatronic can't get there, or shipping's delayed. Like, you know, unless they're ordering it through Amazon, everything else is delayed in shipping. So
yeah, like because if he just wasn't working, he could just stand there and not work, and then everyone could squawk about it. But like,
then he'd be like the Yeti.
He was definitely kind of bent over. Like when I looked at it, I joked with you and told you like he's standing like a duck.
He's standing like a real duck.
So I guess because it was really like, that's, you know, they had to remove it.
It's too funny.
Because he wasn't just being normal and not working. He wasn't just standing there. He was...
Oh my gosh, it's too funny, Carrie.
It's like visually broken too.
Well, that's our news for this week. We like to contribute to some of the slow news stuff as well, keeping you all informed. It's kind of funny what's important to the Disney community, whether you're a fan who's been going hundreds of times or you're planning your first trip. All of these things are kind of good to know. And now you have our predictions.
And once you've drank the Kool-Aid and you're as big a Disney fan as the community, then you just like to see that, you like to chat about Donald being broken, or that there's a Peach Magic Band, or that there's a new cookie or whatever. You were
telling me about some new Magic Band you saw online too that you were thinking about.
Magic Band.
Yeah. Merchandise is so big, right? Like it's such a big part of it.
Did you see, it was just, I think today or yesterday, they have the Emirates at Disney Springs made that dessert that looks like the WandaVision TV.
Oh, I have not seen that yet.
Like, that's very, very cool.
See,
I can't imagine like a Marvel fan would be like, start the car. Like, I think it's cool, and I watch them, and I'm like, I know these things got to be Easter eggs, but I don't know anything about Marvel. So.
Oh wow! I'm gonna have to go see. There's always so much going on, and you can totally miss it. And that's why
it's all exciting.
I know, it's all exciting. Merchandise too. We're all and we have some fun episodes coming up. We have someone who's all about merch going to be joining us soon on the podcast. So excited for that. Yeah. Well, this was fun, Carrie. As always, the news with Gary Gnews.
No news is good news. Is that what he says?
I don't know. We got to go back and watch it. But now it is your time to share with us what your pixie dust of the week is. So what brought you some joy, made you happy, just put a smile on your face for the week. Carrie, what is your pixie dust?
Sorry, I was just Googling Gary Gnu. Okay. My pixie dust is something that you sent to me. I got a surprise in the mail.
Oh,
and
my Amazon driver knows where you live.
Yeah, I've been squawking lately about not being able to do certain things with technology because I like to draw and doodle and whatever. So I was trying to use a tablet, and that was sort of working, but not working the greatest. So then you sent me one of those tablets that you plug into your computer or your tablet and you draw on with the pen and whatever. That was a surprise because I always think about doing these things, but then I never do. I'm like, Yaddy, I forget. And whatever.
Well, you forget, and I knew that you wouldn't do it for yourself. Because
if I remembered, I might have, but I
gotta go look at it. I gotta reason, and I just thought, you know what? She's not gonna do this. I'm just gonna do it.
And it's really rad. It's really cool. I played with it on my laptop. I haven't tried it on my tablet, but it is like totally night and day difference than what I was trying to do before. So
And it gives you a little creative outlet. And yeah, good. I'm glad you like it.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
What about your pixie dust?
My pixie dust this week was there is a special sort of limited time offer at Krispy Kreme.
Good grief.
So Krispy Kreme donuts, there's not a lot of them around in Ontario, but there is one not so far from where my sister lives, and she brought us some Krispy Kreme minis. So they're really the regular Krispy Kreme donuts, just miniature size. So you don't necessarily feel as guilty for eating 3 because they're small. And they are just as delicious.
Wow.
So those were fun.
I saw them on your Instagram.
Well, donuts are I love donuts. You know what? Who are we kidding? I love anything sweet and sugary. And, I'm looking forward to getting back to Disney and having a cupcake. And, well, we didn't talk about the news of the Gideon's Bakery or whatever. It was open, I guess, around Christmas. It was like a soft launch. They closed it, and now it's permanently open.
You need to go into a queue.
Oh, I know. I saw
a reservation queue to get in line to then wait. The
other day it was like a 7-hour wait for a cookie.
And the cookies look like the cookies look like they're the ones that we've seen. Maybe they're their flagship cookies, but they look like they've got like 99.9% chocolate chips. So I don't know if it's a cookie or if it's just a chocolate chip with like 0.1% cookie dough.
Yeah. And I wondered that because I saw it and I thought, because at first I'm like, oh, look at all that chocolate. And then I'm thinking, well, why wouldn't I just buy a chocolate bar if I wanted that much chocolate?
I'm sure it's got to be.
It's got to be good. Like people are going crazy. So that's on the to-do list when we get back to Disney Springs.
Well, when we get back, because it's just as time goes on, that date keeps getting pushed far and farther. We just might need to go for a month.
It might be so. Well, Carrie, always fun. And next week we're going to have a great topic as well. So thank you.
You're welcome. See you soon.
Thanks for listening to another episode of the podcast. If you would like to support us, the best way that you can do that is to tell people about us. Share the podcast with your friends and family. Tell anybody online. Share it on social media. Share it wherever. Help us get the word out about the podcast. As well, ratings and reviews are always appreciated. Until next time, remember, you are never too old to be young. Chase your dreams and design your own happily ever after.